Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you how to do assignment 12, part B. So if you read the short stories The Cage, Long Long After School, or Lamb to the Slaughter, then you need to do part B and not do part A. So if you are watching this video and you read Voodoo, or you read Lather and Nothing Else, or One of These Days, or The Most Dangerous Game, or Spider the Artist, if you read any of those other stories that are not here, then you need to be doing part A, and you will not be doing part B. So please go watch the video for part A if you're in that situation. If you read The Cage, Long Long After School, or Lamb to the Slaughter, then you will be doing part B and not part A. Okay, so what you're going to be doing here is you're going to be writing 3 linked paragraphs, which means 3 connected paragraphs, in which you answer a question about your story. So the sort of connecting idea between these 3 stories is you have a situation where you have a character or characters that have failed to notice something really important that was in front of them the whole time. So The Cage, right, the prisoner doesn't know that the door is open the whole time. Long Long After School, this one's a little bit trickier, but the narrator doesn't really notice how badly he and his town have treated this person, Wes, and he sort of uncovers it as he goes through that they have been really bad to him. It's not, again, made really clear, but if you look carefully into the story, you can see that this is a case of racism. Wes is actually black, living in a white sort of town in the US, and it's purposely sort of hidden that way to try to get across sort of the message of the story, but they are really bad to this poor person without even understanding that that's what they're doing. Or Lamb to the Slaughter, where the police kind of destroy the evidence in this crime when it's right in front of them the whole time. Literally, it's actually in front of them. So in all these stories, you have a character or characters who are failing to notice something really important. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be either kind of blaming them for it, or you're going to be acquitting them and saying, sure, they did something stupid or they did something wrong, but it was very easy for them to make that mistake. If you were in their shoes, if you were doing what they were doing, you probably would have made the same mistake as well. It would be very difficult to do anything different. So we can say, yes, they did something stupid, or yes, they did something wrong, but you can't really blame them. Anybody else in their situation would have done the same thing. Or you can blame them. You can say, this person should have known better, they should have been smarter, or they should have been more sensitive to the needs and situations of people around them. And so, yeah, you can blame them, and you can say they did wrong, and it's their fault. Okay, so that's the theme of the questions here. So here are the questions. So if you read The Cage, we're going to be asking, can we blame the prisoner for failing to notice the door was open the whole time? So again, can we acquit him? Can we, or her? Can we say, yeah, I mean, it seems kind of silly, but anybody in his or her situation would have made the same mistake? Or can we say, no, this guy was an idiot, he should have known the door was open, or she should have known the door was open? Okay? Long Long After School. So again, this way these people terribly mistreat this person, Wes here. We get the idea throughout the whole story that the narrator's ignorant. He doesn't even realize how badly he's treating this guy until the end of the story, when his eyes are kind of open. He says, oh, okay, I get it. And he feels really small, and he understands that he's been really bad to this person. So given that he lives in this racist town, and the views of the town are racist, and he's grown up this way, can we blame him for taking a racist and kind of bad attitude towards Wes? Or can we say, no, you can't treat somebody this way. You can't be mean to a person. You can't dismiss a person. You can't think less of a person. This person should have done differently. It's his fault that he treated Wes so badly. You could even say, for example, one of the characters in the story treats him well, and that's actually how he finds out. He realizes, oh, that's why Wes respects this person so much and loves this person, because this was the one person in town who treated him well. So can we blame him? And then Lamb to the Slaughter. I think in this case the question is maybe more one-sided, because we're dealing with police, and they're supposed to investigate crimes properly. So yeah, we can probably blame them for this one. But on the other hand, there were many circumstances in this case that might have made it difficult for the police to know that they were destroying evidence of the crime. So you probably can say it's their fault in this case, but you'll still need to address why might it be hard for them? Why might it have been harder for them to solve this crime than, say, other crimes? Okay, so we said that you're going to be answering these questions, or sorry, the question that applies to your short story. You're going to be answering your one question, and you're going to be answering it by writing 3 paragraphs. So how are we going to do this? Well, in the first paragraph, you're going to be explaining the context of your question, and you're going to be explaining it as if you're writing to someone who has never read your work of fiction. So this means you have to explain the background behind the question. Because if you were just to go up to somebody on the street and say, what do you think? Can we blame the police for destroying the evidence of Mary Maloney's crime? You know, they won't be able to answer that question. They'll say, who's Mary Maloney? What crime? What police? What are you talking about? So you're going to have to explain the context of the question. So in the cage, you're going to have to explain who is the prisoner and what is this cage that this prisoner is in, and what is the prisoner sort of told, and what are the conditions that this prisoner is in this cage. Or long after school, who is the narrator? Who is Wes? How does the narrator treat him badly? What are some things that he does to Wes to treat him badly? And why does he maybe fail to notice that he's doing that? And then in the last question, what is Mary Maloney's crime? What has she done to try to cover the crime up? And why might the police have a difficulty seeing this? So you're explaining the context, right? So this might involve talking about the plot, what happens in the story. You'll have to talk about these actual characters and who they are, maybe some of the conflict between them, the setting in which this conflict takes place. So I'm not expecting you to mention plot, character, setting, conflict, and actually use those words necessarily. But you have to explain what you think needs to be explained in order to get a reader to understand the question. So the way you'll know, did I do this paragraph really well? Ask yourself the question. If I'd never read this story before, and I read this paragraph that I just wrote, would I understand the question in full? And if you think, yes, I would understand the question, and I might even be able to make my own opinion on it, then you've probably done a good job with paragraph 1. Okay, so in paragraph 2, you're now going to be looking at answering the question to a certain extent, but you're going to be answering it from within the actual story. So there's going to be 2 ways that you're going to answer this question. So you're first going to answer it from the perspective of the character themselves. Why was it understandable that the character would fail to notice what they failed to notice? So we know that they failed to notice it. Why would they do that? So why was it that the prisoner, do you think, wasn't able to find their way out of the prison? What is it about the character? What is it about the actual environment that they're in that made them not be able to get the answer? So notice this is different from paragraph 1. In paragraph 1, you're just laying out what it is that they didn't notice. Here you're kind of explaining why. So why did this character fail to notice this? What is it about who he or she is? What is it about their world that would maybe cause them to fail to notice this? How could we explain their failure? Okay, and then in the second question, we're going to say, what message is the author trying to send to the reader by having the character fail to notice something? So you can kind of say the character failed to notice something for 2 different reasons. The character failed to notice something from their own perspective because they have maybe some character flaws, or they live in a world where it's difficult to notice these things, or maybe some combination of all of these elements. But you're looking at it from the perspective of, if I was in this story, why might I fail to notice? Whereas in number 2, we're going to say, okay, it's a story. The author decided to have the character fail to notice what was going on here. So why did the author make that decision? What message is trying to be sent? Maybe if we're talking about, again, long after school, the fact that the narrator doesn't realize how badly he's treating Wes and why this is a problem, the author has decided to have him act this way. So why? What is the author maybe trying to say about racism in having their characters behave in this way? So you're looking at it from a perspective of, why write the story this way? Okay, so paragraph 2 is, why did the character fail to notice? Part 1, what is it about the character and their setting that caused them to fail? And Part 2, why did the author decide to have them fail? What message are they trying to get them to get across by having them fail? After that, paragraph 3 is where you're going to give your own opinion. If you were in this character's shoes, if you were, say, the narrator in Long, Long After School, if you were the police in Lamb to the Slaughter, what do you think? Do you think you would have noticed, or these people, should they have noticed what they failed to notice? If they were real life people, should they have known what was going on, and why? What do you think? So here you're going to have to draw from your own experiences, your own opinions. This is outside of the story. Why do you think they should have maybe noticed, or why do you think it was okay that they didn't notice? Okay, marking scheme. So your knowledge mark is going to be based on your understanding of the story and the elements of fiction. Is it very clear that you, in your writing here, is it clear that you understand what happened in the story? And is it clear that you understand some of the aspects of the elements of fiction here, setting, character, and so forth, whatever it is that you're using to make your point? And your paragraphs, do they demonstrate an understanding of how the question applies to the story and why someone might ask it? So are you able to make that connection between the question and the story? Do you have enough of an understanding of your story to see how this question applies? Thinking. This is going to be about the substance, so to speak, of your paper. How well organized are your papers, and how effective are your arguments? So here I'm looking at maybe if you're arguing that they should or should not have noticed, are you able to draw from the text to support your own to support your opinions? So if you think, oh, well, the character is this way, what evidence do you have from the text to support that? Or if you're giving your own opinion, can you give examples in support of why you think the answer should be what it is? So in this case, we're looking at what are your arguments? Are they convincing? Are they well structured? And do you use evidence in your arguments? So this is substance. Communication is more sort of style or your ability to explain your arguments. So rather than looking at the quality of your arguments here, I'm going to be looking at how well do you explain them? Is it easy for me to understand what you're writing about? And when you set up the first paragraph here, when you set up the actual question, do you do a good job of that? Can somebody who has never read your story before read your first paragraph and understand what your question is about? Are you communicating well enough that they can do that? Okay. Application, as usual, is going to be spelling, grammar, use of tense, subject-verb agreement, all that good stuff, plus also transition words. So you may, because you're structuring some arguments here, be using some transition words, for example, secondly, first, all that kind of stuff as per usual. So that will be part of your marks. Okay, that's it. Have a good day.